You're listening to the Valley Current.
Hey Joe, how you doing?
Hey Jack, good. How are you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Not bad. Hanging in there.
You're hanging in there? You're making it happen, right?
Well, we got no choice. You got to keep going, right?
You don't have a choice. You just have to chug forward, right?
Everything, that in life, you just got to keep moving. No one's going to sit around and wait. You just got to keep going, no matter what.
Even in the face of all these interest rate increases, right?
Well, the one thing I do know, this is a pretty unfortunate cycle. I haven't seen something like this for a while in our business, but one thing I'm sure of is when it comes back around and turns back around, a lot of people will leave the industry and can't make it. And then there'll be hopefully a better, stronger business for those that are still around. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's a good way to think about it, because you could say this process of creative destruction that's pretty much been accepted in the economic field for a long time,
right,
is a process that kind of cleans out what might be called the weak and allows the stronger to survive. It's almost like evolution in the sense that the survival of the fittest, and that breeds more fit, and then people fall out of the system who aren't fit. It's sort of like what creates a super evolutionary cycle. And you could argue that's what happens in economic cycles. The people that are dabbling, the people who are not really committed, the people who aren't really systematic, they fall out, and then the stronger survive.
I believe in it. Especially, I'm so familiar with this industry, and you're so familiar with all kinds of industries. But what you see is, the very few people in our industry treat it like a business. Both real estate and lending are pretty similar. I'm sure there's other markets or other industries like that. So what happens is when times get tough, most of the time the people that were looking for the easy money bail out. Matter of fact, I read a statistic the other day. It was alarming even to me. They said, I think it was almost 40% of all licensed loan officers that were licensed to do business under the MLS with the lending license. Almost 40% did not renew in the last year. Almost 40% of those that were licensed the year before.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That's a surprising piece of data, because it is suggesting that there's a lot more people that are weak, and they see other opportunities for their time than paying the renewal fees, right?
Or they just saw, I hate to say it, but a lot of people get into the mortgage. I'm sure that, and there may be other industries like this, that there's a natural tendency to dive into mortgage and real estate when things look like they're easy and people are making money. And then what happens is when the market's kind of level or they correct, then there's a washing out, kind of to your point earlier when we started. It's probably happening all over the place. I mean, really, even in high tech, we're seeing it for the first time in high tech that I could remember.
Right. I mean, that people are recognizing that to some degree, digital platforms in all businesses are producing some degree of efficiency, some degree of effectiveness. Don't need as many people to get something across and signed. I mean, years ago, to sign off on a real estate transaction was a big process. You had to go to the closing office, you had to sit and wait, you had to park your car. The notary came out. Now that's all been semi-automated. The notary comes to your home at a convenient 15 minutes, and 15 minutes in and out. I'm sure mistakes are made along the way, but fundamentally, it's viewed as a much more streamlined process, right?
It really is. I mean, again, I'll speak to the mortgage industry, and real estate is simplified. Real estate is still a local kind of market, so to speak, but lending has really changed because of the online platforms, the ease of use, the better technology. I could tell you that I would say 10 years ago, I've been doing this mortgage lending for 23 years. 10 years ago, maybe you saw 50 to 60% of your people that you did business with in person. 5 years ago, maybe 20 or 30%. And then before COVID hit, it was down to seriously 10 or 15%. And now, even when you encourage people to come in, they just, unless they're elderly, unless they have some real concerns and they want to physically drop off papers to you and things like that, you really don't, people aren't face to face anymore.
I agree with you. And it's happening in the law field. And I'm told by the accountants, it's happening in the accounting field as well, where historically you had to meet your client in person. Like you wouldn't even take a client without looking them in the eye and getting a comfortable feeling that, look, I've met clients in different states of their personal situation. Some have walked in drunk, some have walked in stoned, some have walked in with brilliant ideas. Some have walked in dirty. Look, the story about Jobs and Wozniak is a great story.
I love that. I tell that story to people all the time. I love that story you have about that.
They didn't exactly get dressed up for that meeting, but conceptually, you would still meet because the physiological connection created or didn't create a bond. It either did create a level of trust or didn't create a level of trust. And that would be a factor in judging whether you were going to take the client or not. Mm-hmm. So you could argue the same thing is true in mortgage lending. The same thing is true to some degree, historically was true in taking a real estate client. Now, with the real estate client that's selling, the real estate is collateral. You're going to get paid.
Right.
It's real estate sale. You don't really have to worry about chasing a fee. What's on my mind recently, and I'm going to do a separate podcast about this, is the people that represented Twitter in litigation, the Wachtell Rosen firm, big law firm in New York.
Okay.
It pursued and won against Elon Musk that $44 billion bonanza for the shareholders.
Right.
They were on an hourly fee agreement. And the hourly fees for the 6 months that they worked on that case were something like 1.9 million, something like that. It was 1.5 million. It was something like, and that was at an average rate. I don't want to misspeak, but I want to say the average rate was like, $900 an hour, which is a lot, which is a high rate. Yeah. As rates go, it's a high rate. Yeah. I've got a bunch of certifications. I've been in practice for a long time. That's not my rate. But conceptually, I'd love it to be my rate, just like everyone else loves it to be. But here's the kicker of the story. They negotiated what they called a success fee. It's not a contingent fee. Not a contingent fee. This is on top of the hourly fees that you will pay us, and you might even have paid us in advance as a retainer. So there's no risk, no collection risk, no nothing. We at the firm, we at Wachtell Rosen will decide what we think is a fair success fee based on the outcome. This is really old school. This is the way it was done years ago, by the way. I have to say, if this case goes to trial, there's going to be some historians that say, yeah, that was the relationship that you had with your client. Like,
how do you measure? How would you measure something like that, Jack? Give us a kind of example. How would you measure the metrics?
The courts have metrics for contingent fees by class action lawyers, but this was not a contingent fee. It's not in the same category. This is a success fee that's defined by, do you want us to still be your lawyers? If you don't agree to the success fee, I guess we could fight you on it, but we're never going to be your lawyers again. That would be their threat. But in this case, remember, Musk was taking over the company that was paying that fee. So Musk got access to all the records, which he's entitled to because now he owns the company. So he gets to see all their bills. He puts all that in a lawsuit and demands a refund because they took a fee that ended up computing to $120,000 an hour. They took a fee of
Oh my God.
It was a huge, like $95 million fee. It was a mega, it was like 9 or 10 times or 8 or 9 times like their fee and 8 or 9 times their hourly rate. And he said that is so unconscionable that as a matter of law, what you did, and I don't think it's a matter of law, I think it will actually have to go to trial on the factual dispute of what's reasonable, what's not reasonable. His argument is there was no fiduciary that was actually managing the relationship. They said, we want this $90-odd million for our fee. The chief legal officer said, that's fine with me. I'm probably going to get fired tomorrow anyway. The CEO signed off on it. And I think one of the board members, they have quoted an email from a board member who said, oh my God, I had no idea that we were paying them that kind of money. And of course, that board member is being really worried about getting sued as well, because to some degree, they let the fox into the henhouse. I'm sure that's how they'll end up describing it. And it's a little bit like, look, Elon, you refuse to honor the contract. We're now going to get even with you because we've hired a big law firm. The law firm has a success fee, and that money is going to come off out of the cash that was available. And his argument is that cash should have been on hand to manage this company that was otherwise close to the edge of bankruptcy. I mean, he's got a legitimate argument that had another law firm just been a straight hourly fee, fee, maybe they would have to shop around. I'm sure there's other big law firms that would have loved for 6 months of work to get, $1.5 million or whatever they got.
Right.
Big billing for a case that was in Delaware. The law firm was in New York. The witnesses were mostly in California, but it wasn't a California law firm. Wachtell is a New York law firm, but they are viewed as the powerhouse go-to law firm for corporate fights. And, when I think about, did they even have an in-person meeting when we get back to the thread of our original discussion? Did they even have an in-person meeting? They probably did it all by email and by Zoom.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know that to be sure, but there's billing records that probably will say what actually happened there. I think the court appearances, Joe, added up to like less than 50 hours of time. I don't know, but 50 hours of time in court, and to get $90 million for 50 hours worth of in-court time, if you really want to boil it down to what was all this work for. They never went to trial.
Yeah.
Case settled right before the trial, so they did do a lot of work leading up to the trial. But most of it is a success fee.
Well, I'm sure it's systemic to so many different industries, Jack, but what comes to my mind is how must shareholders feel when they have as an executive, a president, a CEO signing off something so ridiculous, but yet they're trusting them to run a company reasonably.
Oh, yeah. You could argue that both that chief legal officer, that CFO, that CEO, whoever touched, they're going to be looked at like you basically allowed the company to be looted. Yeah. We don't want you on our staff. Now, their argument's going to be, well, we signed a contract that said they get to decide their success fee in good faith. They gave us an argument for how much they work 24 hours a day. And I'm sure they did. I mean, I'm sure there were people that were really burning the midnight oil, but under law, the midnight oil, if you really are looking at double time or triple time, still would not have added to $90 million. If you hold a view of what's the reasonable metric, it usually isn't more than triple the hourly rate for someone that's doing weekend work, if you really want to talk about the price of labor. But then again, their view is we're not labor. We're like the most important component of the enforcement mechanism of this lawsuit that had to be brought. Now, whether that's true or not is going to get dissected and trisected, but think about the reputation of Wachtell Lipton. It looks like they raided this not little, I mean, it's a public company, or was a public company, because now he's taken it private. And his argument is, he overpaid. And of course, he wanted to get out of the deal, but it must have been really scorching when he saw that fee, because he was like, wow, this is like they emptied the bank account out.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's just amazing. I know there's so much going on in Silicon Valley. You and I exchange information all the time. It just feels like something's about ready to pop. And I don't know if it's related to real estate. We see a lot of changes in high tech. There's a lot of things going on in the banking industry that make me concerned that there's thoughts that rates could go up over 8%. There's one of the startling articles you and I were discussing, let's talk a little bit about, is what was it if Airbnb decided to put all the homes on the market at one time? I think our percentage was, these are the kinds of things we forget about. And most of us just think people aren't going to dump properties. But just like the stock market, wouldn't you say that if big institutions own a lot of property, they may dump at certain times?
Well, I agree with you that something seems very fragile at the moment, or as things seem to be, particularly in the office market, particularly in San Francisco and other big cities, New York City included, there just is less of a willingness to commute into an office by mass transportation, by whatever you want to call it. People are just unwilling to commute, and they don't want to be in an office. They want to do their work from their home office using their laptop or iPad or whatever they're using. And they don't want to suffer what's probably, for most people, a couple of hours between getting dressed, making lunch, packing it. There's time that you kill both ways, right? Now, of course, It leads to a lot of good things locally for local businesses. And I don't know how restaurants are possibly making it in San Francisco without that foot traffic.
I don't know, but I do want to share a quick story I heard today, and I won't name any names, but this is kind of epidemic though. And I'll tell you, a friend of mine was sharing a story about their daughter's son, could have been a friend's daughter's son, but there was a couple of cases, not just one. And it brought to my attention, they said, yeah, so-and-so's, they're quitting. A couple of people had quit this job. And I said, well, why are they quitting? It seemed to be a pretty good job. And they said, because they're tired of companies keeping an eye on them when they're at home. They can't run their errands and do other work while they're on the payroll anymore. And I thought that was interesting, where years ago and even more. So I guess what I'm saying is you wonder if there's this epidemic out there where people got so used to no supervision, working from wherever they were with no accountability and getting paid.
Right.
And companies are going, wait a minute. No. Hold on a second. This has gone too far.
Right. I mean, you could argue the office check-in, which for some people had like a fingerprint or a handprint.
Yeah.
It was designed to assure that people were not holding 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs at the same time. And we've had cases at the firm, at our law firm, for employers that have discovered that people have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 jobs at the same time. And I'm not talking about just, well, they drive for Uber at night, that's moonlighting. They drive for Lyft at night, that's moonlighting. Oh, they have some sort of second job doing some consulting work for unrelated business. Oh, they do some charity work for their church. Okay, those are normal, or arguably they're normal things, but they do affect energy levels and potentially performance. But literally during the workday, on a W-2 where there's multiple employers, it's almost like it should be flagged.
Wow.
In some system, like they have multiple roles. I mean, you could say this was the modern view that the founder of Twitter had one leg in Twitter, that Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, one of the founders, took another startup job as a CEO of Square. He had 2 CEO jobs at the same time. I mean, that couldn't have been a great thing for Twitter. It obviously didn't result in super success for Twitter. Now, he may beg to disagree. And sure, Jack Dorsey, I'll have you on the show if you call in, you want to straighten me out about this. But having a CEO that has one leg in one company and one leg in another, what does it say to everyone else? It sort of says this is normal. Just like Donald Trump can run for president, be president, and still be CEO of the Trump organization. Well, we put a stop to that, but then he was indirectly still managing,
Yeah.
we're told, still managing the Trump organization through his family members, right?
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I think a little bit of this, Jack, is this, I don't know what I want to call it, is this, this romantic kind of feeling, a lot of the high, I think it's the luster is wearing off. We've talked about this, but, almost like these godlike figures, Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey and Zuckerberg, and well, boy, look at what they've done already. So maybe they could help this company, and maybe we can make more money. And maybe if he's got one foot in this company, maybe we could, I almost think there's this fantasy about some of these people. And I'm not saying they don't work hard and they're not brilliant people, but don't you think we put them on these pedestals sometimes and think it's enough is enough?
Well, I'll tell you where it's true. And I just want to put this lawsuit up just so I could remember, a couple of things about it, because it shows that Musk is really willing to attack even a big, powerful law firm, a big, powerful Wall Street law firm, the most profitable law firm in the world, by the way.
Wow, now, so he's going after them.
Yeah, he's gone after the most profitable law firm in the world. And, about 2 years ago, I ended up getting a copy of an ad. Somebody sent it to me by LinkedIn that said, Elon Musk is looking for a general counsel to run the law firm that he's going to establish. I was like, what? And this was before he bought Twitter, but clearly he had in mind that he needs to be fairly aggressive in use of the courts to kind of straighten out stuff that he thinks is unjust. So his company is called X Corp. That was the actual purchaser of Twitter.
Yeah.
They keep the Twitter logo and the Twitter name, but X Corp is actually the holding company owner.
Okay.
It sues Wachtell Lipton on this case filed in the San Francisco Superior Court, not in federal court, filed by a law firm that has its principal offices in Austin, Texas, because that's where Musk is located now, with a local firm in, Santa Barbara. I don't know how big they are in Santa Barbara, but it's not San Francisco. It's obviously not a San Francisco law firm. And it's like a 33-page complaint. And I'll get to the point in a second, but I just wanted to point this out. They really dress it up to sort of explain, oh my freaking God, one former Twitter director immediately exclaimed in an email, oh my freaking God, about what the hell was going on here of the chart of fees that the Twitter board was meeting to approve, because it was obviously a huge bill. Man. $84 million of the balance was owed on a $90 million bill, and it was paid. And they say it's basically like a massive gift that was made. I'm quoting right from the lawsuit. I'm not characterizing it. And it's detailed. And wait, the kicker to the story, and then I'll get to the real point I wanted to make about Musk, because I think there is a point here that needs to be emphasized. This lawsuit goes on with a lot of detail of how things led up to what they led up to and so on. And let me just go to what I wanted to say, which is they actually attached all the confidential billing to this complaint. So they waived the attorney-client privilege that normally attaches to the law firm's billing. They're basically wanting to say, in so many words, if you hire Wachtell Lipton, and this is the reputational damage part, and that's why I think Elon Musk is a street fighter, and he is saying to them, the gloves are off. I am doing a street fight here, and you're not going to win. And I don't know how much of a refund he's actually going to settle on, if anything. I mean, it's pretty interesting. The complaint in the prayer says, plaintiff does not seek any compensatory damages, but rather seeks the equitable remedies of restitution, fee forfeiture, and disgorgement of legal fees. I mean, it's a nice way of saying we don't want a jury trial here because we're worried that a San Francisco jury might go against us. I think a San Francisco jury would probably go in their favor. But then again, maybe it's like, who wants to give money to Musk? Back to Musk, he laid a bunch of people off. But Musk should have positioned this in the press. The reason I have to lay all these people off is money was taken that could have been used for payroll.
Wow.
Like a huge amount was taken, 80 plus million was taken. But there's all these exhibits, and I'll get to the main point about Elon Musk, there's all these exhibits that really tell the story in a lot of detail. It must be so embarrassing for anyone at Wachtell Lipton looking at this, because this is a very white shoe.
And is this all, Jack, is this all public?
All public. This is all
Wow.
public. Very
Wow.
little redaction.
Wow.
Very little anything here. There is some stuff in this that talks about waiver of jury trial. That's probably illegal in California anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to get around an arbitration clause. Maybe that's part of what's going on. I mean, it's a signed agreement, but still the size of the fee was
Look at the law firm, the name.
Yeah. No, it's a big New York law firm. There's
Look at that. Look at that.
I mean, this is not huge by anyone's standard.
Yeah.
It's big, but it's not huge compared to some of them. But this was the actual litigation preparation from inception through July. 5.6 million. Before there was any litigation, they spent 5.6 million. And then look at the number of timekeepers that worked on this, including they just put them in some sort of order that I don't know what.
Look at that. Look at the hourly rate. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So this exhibit is telling this story.
Man.
And it gets even more detailed than that, Joe. I mean, I haven't gone through it, but I'm sure someone's going to go through it and do a drill down, and there is a little bit of redaction here and there. Someone's going to do a really detailed drill down of the descriptions. Like, they're going to wonder what were people.
I'm seeing quickly $2,000-$3,000 an hour, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, look at this one word. There's one word description. I mean, this is the stuff that really makes people extremely upset. These one word descriptions like strategy. There's this person here that just writes a description called strategy. $14,570 for strategy right here. This guy, Alexandra Sanditsky, 12.4 hours.
Just strategy.
14,000. That's more than $1,000 an hour for just one line. Strategy. One line.
Yeah, look at this up. Look at this up here. 5.7 hours for over 10,000. That's $2,000 an hour.
Right. He was the highest rated biller. He was the guy in charge. I think William Sabat. He's in the news. Right. I mean, it's an interesting story. To me, it's a really interesting story, and it's going to make and should make a Harvard business case of how much reputational damage can happen to a law firm that doesn't end up really dotting every I and crossing every T in terms of billing. And I don't know how they would have done that in this situation. They may say that they did it, and they may say they're going to defend these bills. But I have to tell you, any judge, and most judges make, $250,000 a year. Right. They're looking at this like these guys made in less than 6 months $90 million. Really?
This cannot. Really? I don't care any way you look at this. This cannot go well for this law firm, no matter what happens, right?
Well, reputationally, there's going to be a big question mark about what was this just designed from day one to have the most number of people. I mean, I think this is like half the firm was billing on this. I mean, we can get an exact count, right? I think at the end of the day, you can count the number of lawyers, and there's only so many lawyers in the litigation department because they have a corporate department as well. Conceptually, and this billing goes on and on and on. This is Exhibit 3 of the complaint. Somewhere in this, you have to say to yourself, did they really need that many people? Did they really need that many expensive people? Did they really need to put the number of hours into this story over and over again? And somewhere in this is going to be a really interesting comparison with some of the other firms that bill. Like, what did the lawyers that were billing Musk end up spending? That's sort of a comp, right? If you want to look at it comparable. Yeah. And they must be going through this and laughing. I mean, those guys at Skadden Arps must be going through this and saying, wow, we wish we were these guys.
Yeah.
We wish we were on the other side of this one compared to what we got paid. Now, Musk probably critically reviewed their bills too. I mean, who knows? I don't know. But this bill is quite telling.
It's probably a little too soon, but the one thing that comes to my mind, Jack, and it'll probably take a couple of years, although these days it could be sooner. This all is going to be made for TV and documentary, right? There's going to be shows and movies about Musk and the Twitter takeover and the law firm. Can you imagine? I mean, just like who is Elizabeth? What's her name with Holmes?
Elizabeth Holmes.
It's different. Yeah. It's different, right? But my point is, this is so big and far-reaching, and reaches so many people. And then what do you think? Don't you think this wakes up other companies that have done business with this law firm that might want to dig up their books?
Well, theoretically, it's possible. I mean, theoretically, the law firm that brought this case could get a lot of referrals from other big companies that feel they were taken advantage of. Now, whether that would kill Wachtell Lipton as a business or as a firm or as a business law firm, I kind of doubt. I think corporate America thinks they are the cat's meow in the areas that they practice. Okay. And certainly they won this $44 billion quote unquote recovery. It wasn't really recovery. It was enforcement of a contract. I mean, it was enforcement of a contract that said he basically couldn't wiggle out of the contract. This was not some super sophisticated thing. This was a writing that had been created by lawyers, vetted by experts, reviewed by directors on both sides, and signed and approved by the shareholders. And so it was not like this was a brilliant argument in the US Supreme Court. This was a brilliant legal theory. This was like Contracts 101. So it can't be about the sophistication of the case. It has to be more about the time compression. Wow. But even with the time compression, arguably, that's a good thing for a law firm. They get in and out of a case fast. They don't use all their resources for years and years. The class action lawyers often have to work for years and years with no compensation. These people were paid a retainer up front, and the work got done in less than 6 months.
I love this.
Literally.
I love some of the explanations are just almost comical. Huddles, legal huddle, and all this stuff.
That's all happening probably by Zoom or Teams or some other system that's not even in person. And you could argue maybe there's no accountability happening when people are not meeting in person. Maybe a lot of these people were working from home. I don't know what all the maybes are, but I do know that this will go down in the history books. And now I'll get to the point about Elon Musk. So Elon Musk will not, my prediction is Elon Musk will not settle this case without getting the lion's share of this money back. And the only question in my mind is, will the Tesla board or the rocket company board or the Twitter board, the new Twitter board, which I think is, mostly just him, will they say, look, we're going to just take half the money and we're going to be done. They're going to refund us. They're going to give us a refund of, $45 million. And, to these guys, that's like, that's chump change. To the Wachtell people, that's chump change. And they could say with a smile, all right, we got paid our fees and a success fee. And the success fee turned out to be, so many times our fee.
Right.
I think Musk is going to try to get it all back. And I think that Wachtell is going to have to really think about whether they take this all the way to the California Supreme Court, assuming it stays in the state courts in California, assuming it doesn't move to the federal courts, because for some reason they didn't name another defendant, which would have broken up diversity jurisdiction My guess is this is going to get removed to federal court, and it's ultimately going to get in front of a federal judge in San Francisco and ultimately be in the Ninth Circuit, which means the applicable law will be how the Ninth Circuit views California law. But when you look at this from a big picture point of view, Musk feels the legal system is broken. And Musk is going to probably become the Don Quixote of trying to deal with broken aspects of the legal system. And I've got to believe that this fee deal, I mean, this is the original, I think this is the original memo that was kind of justifying the fee.
Yeah.
They were like trying to put together a justification. You have asked us to supply information regarding fee arrangements comparable.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really anything comparable, but maybe they did it. I mean, these are the bullet. This has all been made public. I mean, this has got to be viewed as very embarrassing. I don't think they ever expected this stuff to hit the light of day, right?
Right.
I mean, somewhere in this. But Musk, I think, is going to take this as far as he could take it to be able to say, look, I just think the legal system is broken. And if you allow this to continue, inevitably, you're going to see the kinds of abuses that exist here. Now, I don't know what the internal discussion is that's going on within the Wachtell firm.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other people that approved this deal, because they've got to be worried that they're going to get sued next and be viewed as somewhat responsible. But it goes to this question of the bigger picture of what's going on in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of people that are making a lot of money, and some people are getting laid off. And all the Twitter employees that have been laid off, if they're reading this lawsuit, they have to be saying to themselves, well, imagine if that money, let's call it even with a reasonable success fee of 10 million, let's call it 70 million, 80 million,
Right.
some number, call it north of 50 million, we're still available. How many of those people wouldn't have been laid off?
Yeah.
How many of those people would have stayed? How many of those people would have been like, fine?
That's amazing. I mean, that is remarkable.
I mean, here it is, summarized, $90 million fee, $5 million that was paid, $84 million success fee, or some portion of that was a success fee. One line invoice. I mean, there's a lot of backup detail there, but fundamentally it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to that kind of number. So, at some level, you have to wonder, how does a judge who makes $250,000 a day think about this when he goes through this paperwork? All of the judges in San Francisco must be reading it. All of them must be like, wow, we've never seen a fee that high for any litigation. Now, there are exceptions dealing with class action cases where it is a contingent fee.
Yeah.
The contingent fee really means percentage. And the percentage is quite different because you don't know what's going to happen. But this one's going to go in the books as one of the most off the chart fees that anyone's ever seen.
Amazing.
So we'll see where it lands, but it does get to this point of what's happening in Silicon Valley, which is there's a lot of people making a lot of money. A lot of people outside Silicon Valley. Wachtell is in New York. Most of those people were in New York, probably all of them. They don't have an office. Maybe they should. Maybe they should have an office. Maybe they should put some of that money. They should probably buy my law firm. Wachtell, you got a ton of money. I mean, they actually need a law firm in San Francisco that is grounded in San Francisco practice. Yeah. They clearly should take some of that money and put together a team in San Francisco.
They should buy that beautiful building of yours in Palo Alto from me.
Well, they could buy, talk about office buildings. They could buy probably 555 California Avenue. I think it's in default. Yeah. Several of them are in default. They could probably buy those buildings and put a bunch of lawyers in those buildings. But somewhere in this, if the case stays in California, maybe they're going to try to get it moved to arbitration. Maybe they're going to try to get it moved to the New York federal courts, although I'm not sure the New York federal judges are going to be that much more courteous to them. Maybe they've got as good of a reputation or more of a reputation there. I think this is very much like Musk saying, look, this is like a raider baron type of looting that's gone on. And in many ways, no one really put any fiduciary control over any of this. And it goes to your point. I think it goes to your point that Silicon Valley's culture, with all the wealth, and maybe we have a new cycle of it starting in AI, all of that wealth creates a culture that changes so much of the tradition of what people normally do.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of opportunistic behavior that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that opportunistic behavior ultimately makes people feel alienated.
Yeah.
Is this a good place to be?
Yeah.
It's not a great feeling. It's a feeling that there's like almost like the wild, wild west at this point. And if you're not as wealthy as Musk is to engage in the fight, because he's going to spend probably several $1 million to do this fight. Maybe he's got these lawyers on a contingent fee. That would be right. I mean, if he's got these lawyers,
I'll bet. You know, it's funny. I'll bet if nothing else, who's ever working this case now are going to keep a closer eye on their fee structure.
Well, it's like it creates also some professional jealousy, because if you're looking around, other lawyers are like, I want to get cases like that where I can get basically a 10x multiple on my fee.
Yeah.
I mean, even in class action cases, you don't see that.
Wow.
Even in class action cases that last 5 or 10 years, you don't see that. So I don't know what's going on here in terms of behavior, but the behavior is at the heart of, I think, your observation.
Yeah.
And the human behavior is changing. And I don't know that it's changing for the good, but it is changing. And it is going to cause a lot of stuff that people find very abnormal, and a lot of stuff that people will question. And ultimately, it's about what's the rule of law and ethical behavior, and how do those guardrails actually exist in California and elsewhere. And so maybe to some degree, this fact that people aren't meeting anymore creates a different level of ethics. That could be theoretically possible because people don't really have a connection or a stronger connection. But then again, there are people who think the connection is just as good. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to understand. I mean, it's hard to get a read on it. And we'll see next 5 or 10 years.
Wow.
We'll see. I mean, ultimately, Wachtell gets a lot of news out of this, but it's not great news. But I tell you, in terms of applicants for positions at the firm, they're probably sending resumes over saying, hey, this firm is making more profits per partner than any other firm. If they get to keep this fee, their profit per partner in 2023, 2022 will probably be off the charts.
Well, then the other thing comes to mind, and you would know this better than me, Jack, but the other thing comes to mind is, so internally, does this do any damage to that law firm? We're talking about externally, but internally, do you have lawyers inside going, wait a minute, I didn't know they get paid that. Wait a minute. You know what I mean? Do you have that kind of infighting going on now too when they see this stuff?
Yeah, I think there will be, depending on how that money is spread, because the litigation attorneys in the group probably get the lion's share because, hey, they eat what they kill, and they killed something huge here, assuming they don't have to spit it back.
Right.
I mean, but the corporate guys are like, hey, what about us? Now, I don't know what the internal sharing is, but if it's clawed back, then there'll be a fight about who should do the clawback, because the argument will be, hey, you litigation guys didn't document the file very well, if that's what's found. I mean, judges can go any which way on how they decide this, but you know, for my money, the better upfront thing that should have happened, not in October of 2022, but back when the fee agreement was signed, and whenever that was, you know, March, April, May of 2022, It should have been, look, the success fee is going to be a large multiple on the amount of our regular fee. And that multiple can range anywhere from 5 to 15 times, depending on how long, how aggressive, how this. They could list all the factors. And if the board signed off on that, then there would be something to really help them say, we told them what our rate was. We told them it could be 5 to 15 times. Okay, in this case, we picked the middle of 10, and here's why that's justified. But even then, there would be a question of, well, why was it not 5? Right. Why was it 10? You didn't go to trial. You only spent maybe 50 hours in court, probably far less than that.
Right.
The other side only spent a certain amount of time and money. Mm-hmm. Why are you getting such a huge multiplier? Wow. And that'll be an interesting question for a judge to decide in San Francisco, whether in state court or in federal court. But it goes to this question of, is the culture changing? And are we seeing something happen here that is going to produce goodness? Or are we seeing something happen here that's really producing the opposite of goodness?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think your suspicion is right that the other shoe might be about to fall, and how it falls will determine a lot of things going forward. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. The longer this economy kind of rolls along like it's going, and what I mean by that is some people might say, well, it doesn't seem to be doing too bad. But if you look at under the hood a little bit more, and the longer these rates stay where they are, and if they go even higher, what that does to so many different markets and goods and services really changes a lot of things. So we'll see. We'll see. I think here we are, into the second quarter. It'll be interesting to see what happens here in the third and fourth quarter.
I think the rates are going higher, Joe, and I think we're going to see a lot of banks, as you first noted, collapse because there'll be office buildings that will not pay the freight.
Yeah.
Foreclosures will not cover the principal debt.
Right.
And we're going to see whether that then plays out to layoffs and other activities that result in businesses laying people off. And then you start to see the volume of available housing go on the market very quickly.
I would agree.
Certainly the second housing. And then real estate and loan professionals like yourself, the better ones will step up to do whatever marketing and other services are required to get replacement owners into those properties at probably a fairly significant discount to what was the real asset value. And then we'll have this creative destruction process grind its way through the economy. And whether it causes another 2007, 2008 kind of debacle, but I expect there to be a lot of smaller banks that will get hurt.
Yeah,
a lot of replays of SVP, a lot of replays of other banks that have been hurt. And you have to be wary if your money's in a small bank and it's above the FDIC limit. You have to be wary that it has risk, and you might lose the money into a failed kind of bank, right?
Yeah, and I do think, I'll say it again. I've said it a couple of times. I see this going. The second home market, which exploded during COVID, and I think the numbers, I'm pretty correct on it. Go back, but I'm pretty sure that second home purchases were up 40 to 45% the last 3 years. So what's going to happen is those are going to be the first ones that get dumped. And when people start getting in trouble, right? They might hang on to the rental properties, you could argue, if they need cash or if they lose their job. They may even try to take their profits while they can and unload that real estate. But I think that second home market's going to be interesting. And that's why I highlight places like Montana, Idaho, Vegas to some extent, Arizona to some extent, where there's not super strong job markets to support that accelerated appreciation. So you can't really find someone that's going to go in and buy a home for $3 million in Idaho, right? Not a bunch of them anyway. So that dynamic, I think I'll keep my eye on that, see what's going to happen.
Right. Well, we'll do another checkup as things evolve, but generally, I agree with you that it seems as though the second half of the year, if rates increase and if defaults increase, and you could look at little canaries in the coal mine thing, as I've suggested, if you go on things like swap a lease for cars.
Yeah, you brought that up.
You start seeing people say, I got to get out of my lease of my car. And they use tools like swap a lease. And of course, hedge funds have much more sophisticated analytics than what I'm suggesting. It's a message that people can't pay their credit card debt. They can't carry their monthly loan balances. They're trying to tighten their belt as hard and as fast as they can. And with that, you see this recession worry become a reality, and how that ripples through the economy and what does that do going into the fall and Christmas period, when usually it's more of a boom period. I think we're going to see something very different than what we've seen in the post-pandemic period. And maybe it will lead to something really good.
And before we leave too, I want to bring up what you just said. I think it's another point to make. And I know for a fact, credit card debt is near an all-time high. It's another thing we keep an eye on. So the reason why that's important, there's two reasons why it's important. It's not only near an all-time high, but let me stress this to those out there listening. It's at an all-time high when the rates on those credit cards haven't been this high in a decade or so. Right. So because it's tied to the prime. So credit cards are tied to prime. So some of these credit cards are 12, 15, 16, 20, 25% interest.
Right.
Now.
It's double barreled. It's double barreled. As the rates go up, people see the amount due as the minimum payment go up. They look and say, this will take us decades to pay off. You know, we got to exit something that allows us to not be in bankruptcy. That's been a stigma. The bankruptcy lawyers will probably do pretty well, I imagine. I mean, there'll be a lot of filings. But conceptually, it's not a good thing for society to have these huge booms and busts, because there are people that commit suicide.
I know.
Stuff like this. I mean, it's not like, you know, we don't have from 1929, and I guess we'll go on record here and say 2029 is coming up. We've had the pandemic 100 years later after 1918, roughly, you know, 1918 to 2018, the pandemic kind of started in 2019, pretty close to 100 years. There could be a big 100-year cycle playing out. I'm not trying to be a psychic here, but there could be a master cycle playing out where basically 4 or 5 generations of people later, there's a certain creative destruction repetition, and there'll be some people that will be destroyed. And there'll be some people that say, why did I work so many years and decades? And then I lost everything. And it might be in some stupid way. Now, the only saving grace is it looks like we have a new iteration in Silicon Valley of artificial intelligence companies, a lot of venture capital going into them, a lot of startups happening, a lot of new tech coming forward. But whether that will be as lasting as the other cycles were, and you could say there have been at least 5 or 6 other cycles in Silicon Valley, starting with the original mainframe computer and going to smartphones. I mean, there have been many, many iterations of this. If this really does catch on, maybe it sustains Silicon Valley and other places where there still is a lot of startup activity that can absorb the talent that gets laid off. But a lot of that activity is machine driven. It's not driven by people.
Yeah, there's something brewing. And I hear you. I don't want to be a conspiracist either, but there's something brewing, and I can't put my finger on it, but I think, you know, again, these rates, the longer they stay higher, and it's going to paralyze, it's already paralyzed the real estate market. People don't want to move. They get low interest rates. Rates will stay high. Debt continues to accumulate and build up. There's got to be a point with layoffs where people start making moves out of desperation.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I'll cross my fingers and hope you're wrong and hope that I'm wrong. We'll laugh.
I hope so too.
we'll say no. There's resilience, and it's playing out in the human spirit, and it's very powerful. But we'll stay connected, and you take care. Okay.
You do the same. Thanks, Jack.
Tune in next time on the Valley Current.